Okay, so I wanted to do a video on this. Some of the things this commenter basically was saying was really correct. I agree with. She was responding to some people who were responding to a video I made back in last summer. I think June. Yeah, I think it was in June last summer, or was it July? One or the other. But anyway, my question was basically why support Cynthia G if she basically is someone who is against divestors. Because at that time I was getting a lot of divested black women who were upset at me because I made the video on her interview with a white man. And my main issue in that situation was mainly, why are you... My main issue, anyone can look, it's on the main page of mine, but my main issue was just how she presented everything. Anyway, for divestors and swirlers, I felt like it made us have a bad look to white men, basically, because, someone who's into black men like her does not really get to be able to, they don't really get to be able to understand the perspective of someone who is dating interracially. So many of the time, these people will basically get this situation where they will act out and behave in certain ways to get black men's attention. But they're not really thinking of how it makes them look to other races. And, if you're an interracial dater, that really affects you because the way other races see you is important, obviously, in our situation. But the point was, I like this lady's comments because some of the people were commenting saying, that she was somehow an ally. And, she was pointing out how she wasn't. She's talked about black women who are divestors. But more than that, I like the fact that she kind of basically pointed out how she was only basically using the divested movement for, benefit and for social gain, basically, for financial gain, I think it's not just financial, though. I think it's also a matter of the sector that she's in maybe kind of pushed her to try to be accepting towards divestors. And because of that, she has tried to avoid talking about them sometimes. Even though she still will go back and attack divestors. But some of the time, her following has kind of pressed her to stop talking about them. But the fact that she hasn't deleted her videos, and that's what I was pointing out back then, that since she didn't delete her videos against divestors, how are you going to assume she was for divestors? And a lot of people kept trying to ignore that and try and say, oh, well, that's the past. A few months ago is the past to some people. And, we just like what she's saying right now. And a major thing I think is more important is not really Cynthia G, but let's focus on the people who, were willing to ignore the fact that she was sleeping with black men, ignore the fact that she was attacking black women that weren't attracted to black men, didn't want black men for whatever reason. You have to think, these people chose to follow her. She never made them follow her. You know what I mean? And to me, it speaks volumes because if you understand that you agree with someone who wants black men and feels they can't out black men, then how do you label yourself a divester? Maybe you need to look within and see. You want black men too. Or maybe, you have some kind of hurt with black men that you need to work out. Whether you choose men of another race or not, it does seem like if you agree with that kind of rhetoric, maybe you were hurt. And, being divested is not about being hurt. It's not about dealing with black men and, dealing with struggle love, as they call it, and, choosing other men because black men didn't work out. This lady, she was talking about how, divestors do not choose men of other races as a second option. And I wanted to add to that because it was like, for me, in my perspective, I think, honestly, I think that swirlers do not choose black men as the first option. They don't, I don't think. I think that for swirlers and divestors, that black men are not an option. People get so confused with rainbow swirlers and swirlers that they think that swirlers can be convinced into being with black men who have money. That's more of a rainbow swirler. A swirler is someone who just needs to level up their game, basically, with men of other races. It's not specifically men within their race. Because a lot of swirlers, she was talking about how a lot of other races have dust in one of her other comments. And it's like, that's more of what swirlers struggle with, is the dust of other races, not the dust of black men. It doesn't matter if the black man has dust or if he has money or whatever, either way, he's just not looked as someone who's ideal. Personally, for me, I totally related to what she was saying about how divestors have no interest in black men in their teens or as children. For me personally, I think it was between being a child and a teen that I think when I was a kid, I always thought, of course not. I think for me, I was kind of reared in favor of white men more than black men. So for me, it was always like, I never understood why anyone would think to be into black men, or like that would be an option for me or something I should be attracted to, So I'd say, I guess, as a child, I made a decision. A very young child, because I can't remember when it started. But I consider myself more a swirler who is trying to level up her game, so then she's more like a divester, basically. As I get older, I'm in my 20s now, so, But to me, I totally agree with her when she was saying about how mammies view it so differently. They think of it like black men are not working out, you go with some other race. And that's a major thing with mammies too, is I've noticed a lot of mammies will try and make the narrative that black men did not want divestors or swirlers or something like that, because their mindset is that they can't understand how someone cannot want black men. That's what's going on there. I always thought they were very alien and foreign to me because I don't understand what is there to want about a black man. There's nothing appealing about him for me personally, so I don't understand like what would be so what would be so desirable about a black man that you can't fathom that someone would not want a black man. I don't understand it. Honestly, I don't understand how you could prefer black men over white men. I mean, like, white men to me, when they're the majority, they're the main image you see in America is the white man. And, I mean, they just look more appealing. They look like men, and black men don't. And I understand, divestors and swirlers, we have different reasons for what we do. Some people are more into, like, they feel like black men don't provide and all that stuff. And that's a major component with swirlers and divestors. The mindset of provision, the mindset of making a good choice is the difference between a swirler and a divestor. See, a swirler dates the same race as a divestor, but the swirler actually has to vet through and actually have good priorities, basically. But at the same time, for swirlers, we're generally just not attracted to black men, so therefore we don't have any desire for a black man. This is why I tend to veer towards divested channels, because for me it's not about hating black men, it's about making the right choice and talking about how to make good decisions on the men that you choose to date and choose to be with. It's not really about hating black men to me. It's like how to avoid bad options. Personally, for me, a bad option is someone who is a black man, obviously, because he's not my preference. But I will easily, basically, I won't be with a man like that. I will easily vet and, I would never include a black man in my dating pool, is what I'm trying to say. But, a lot of the time people don't really pay attention to the fact that, like, it's not about hate towards black men. It's about, in my opinion, making the best choice for you as a black woman at the end of the day. And mammies often, if they try to pretend they're divested or try to speak to divested women for money or whatever, they always do it in a bitter sense because all they can think of is anger towards the black man because they want them.